Hello, welcome back. So excited for this Q&A. So just so grateful to everyone that submitted a question. Just thank you first of all for that, because it makes the video more interesting when there's actually questions for a Q&A, right? So we're gonna go ahead and dive right in, but wanted to just let you know, if you are not subscribed already, make sure you subscribe. This channel is definitely for anyone that is an aspiring entrepreneur. Maybe you're just getting started, or maybe you've been in it for a while and you're really just looking for some encouragement, some support, and just tips and advice and just different things to help you. I document my personal journey of being a full-time entrepreneur, a mom, a wife, and just having all these different things of just trying to figure myself out, and I love to just share. And so definitely join my little Inspire fam over here. All of the ways to connect with me, possibly work with me, check out my freebie download page. All of those things are going to be linked down in the description so we can connect off of YouTube as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this Q&A. So I have my questions here, and they are in a random order, so I may shift gears with some things. All right, so let's go ahead. So the first question says, hey Tatiana, I'm just starting out. How do you make covers for notebooks? The whole procedure from apps to whatever it takes. Also, how do I make the lines in my pages? In case I'm using normal ream of paper, it's what I have in my country. Do you have any wisdom for me? Okay, so I'll try to share as much as possible. I do have a course that will walk you through all of these things when it comes to creating the covers and creating the lines and all of that stuff. So I'm gonna try my best to just explain it briefly, but if you really want an in-depth walkthrough on how to create your own hardcover or even laminated cover journal or planner, I have an entire course on that. It's called the Handmade Planner Masterclass. It's always linked down below in the description. So the way the hardcover works is it's essentially a piece of book board. The book board will be of varying sizes, and then you can use sticker paper. That's what I've used to cover the book board. And then from there, you can print on the sticker paper whatever type of cover design that you want to be on there. So, you know, whether it's something personalized or if it's kind of like a standard design for everyone, you print that on, and then based off of the sizing that you decide on, you would be able to put that sticker paper on the book board, and then you would bind it based off of whatever type of binding style. So for me, I use the cinch from Heidi Swap. Well, it's the Heidi Swap one, but it's the cinch from We Are Memory Keepers. And pretty much what it does is it has the little holes in there. You punch it down, and then I can use wire O binding to do that. I'll make sure if I remember to link the video down where I kind of show that process within my videos, like how to make a notebook, but you'll kind of see how the cinch is used within that. It's that same process, but I do it for hardcover as well. And that's pretty much how the covers are made. As far as like the very minute details and everything, again, check out that course, but that is the meat of it. It's really just having the book board. There's different thicknesses. You can find, Amazon even has some packages of book board that you can purchase, and then getting it to the size that you want it to be within your design program. I personally like to design my covers within Adobe Illustrator, and that is where I can kind of like size it and make sure everything makes sense based off of the sizes of the pages that I have, and then in relation to how big I want the cover. So let's just say if you do have a 6x9 planner and that's the size of the pages, you might want to make your cover a bit bigger than that, just so that way it can kind of protect around. And typically with most hardcover products, you'll find that there is a little bit bigger space between the actual page size versus the cover size. Also, as far as making the lines, I do all of my page design for these things in Adobe InDesign, and there's a lot of different ways you can make lines. I pretty much keep it simple. There's an actual line tool right within InDesign that I use. I create the one line to the thickness that I want it to be, you know, drag it out however long I need it to be, and then I basically just copy a couple of them, and then I just paste them. And then they have an align feature within Adobe InDesign that you can just kind of align it and make sure that there's an even amount of space between each line. As far as how much space you want in between, I always kind of eyeball it. Honestly, over the years, I've always just kind of gauged based off of what I feel is enough space comfortably to write. I've printed it out and tested it to see what works. You can always measure the line between a notebook you currently have and see how much space is between for that. But that's pretty much it. I use Adobe InDesign for that, and then what it does is it allows me to then use it for anything. So even if I create other files later, I could just go back and pull those lines from something already made, or I can remake them from scratch, or however you do it. Typically, one thing I will say, I do like to do it in grayscale versus just like straight up black and white. So I always will do my designs in like a darker gray color versus black, and I find that it just is a little bit lighter on the eyes. I tend to like that. That's definitely more of a preference thing, I would say, than like a need, but I just thought I would mention that since we're talking about design. And I think she mentioned something about it being a normal ream of paper. So if it's like a letter size piece of paper, like I know you can get those big packs of like 500 pieces of paper, 8.5 by 11 US letter size. I'm not sure which country you're in, but even with that, it's the same thing. So even if you design it, you can design it to be whatever size you want the final to be, and then you can print it out and you'll be able to cut it down to size after the fact. So the size of the paper really doesn't matter. As long as the paper can fit in your printer and everything, you'll be able to cut it down to size. Okay, so someone asked, how's it going? Thank you for checking in on me. Things are going pretty good. It's been a lot of moving parts happening over here. We're in the process of getting ready to move and relocate. We're selling our house right now. And so it's just been a lot of craziness, you know, just trying to stay focused on everything, all the tasks at hand. So that has really been just the biggest thing. But overall, I'm blessed, I'm healthy, I'm happy. Life is good. I can't complain. You know, there's definitely those things, and I've had my seasons, but I'm really glad that God has brought me through. And now we're just getting ready to get into this new chapter of life and just see what it's all about with moving. So I'll definitely be sharing some vlogs and things on here of just how that all came to be, where we're moving and all of that stuff. You'll be able to check it out on the channel. But overall, I'm doing really good. Things are going well. On the business side of how things are going, I've really been enjoying the membership. I launched it at the end of March going into April, and absolutely love the connections we're creating in there. The ladies are amazing. I've been enjoying the training so far, and it's been such a good time. I have a wait list if you're interested in joining the membership, but it is just exactly the way that I pictured it to be, but even better, only because this is truly an answered prayer of mine, to be able to inspire women, work with women, encourage them, and just that people are rooting each other on. Like, it's everything that I literally spoke out that I wanted, and I'm just seeing it happen before my eyes. And so I'm just so grateful to God for the membership. It has been so amazing. So that's, I would say, how things are going on kind of the personal and business front. Okay, so here's another one. Hi, Tatiana. My question is, how do you get new clients? How have you gotten clients to join your group coaching programs and work with you one-on-one? Which strategies have worked the best for you? This is a wonderful question, and it is definitely a very relatable question that I'm sure a lot of people will wonder, even on the side of like, how do you get people to purchase your products, and just how do you get people to invest in you in general? And so what I will say is, for me and my personal opinion, my personal journey, I can only speak from mine. Everyone has different things that they do. But what has worked best is just really being authentic, sharing my story, and being consistent. Those are really the key things for me. Because prior to me really documenting and kind of like posting on YouTube, and more so like, you know, vlogging, sharing my journey, before I was doing any of that, I was definitely getting sales and people were subscribing to my box and all of that stuff. But it wasn't until I really started to like show who I was as the business owner behind the scenes, getting vulnerable, not necessarily telling a whole bunch of my business, but you know, like enough to where people can connect with me and learn a little bit more about me. And that was really where it just naturally started to become, hey, can you give me some advice about my own business, or do you offer business coaching? And so for me, it was a little bit flipped, because when I went into getting started with the content that I was doing, I had no intention whatsoever of getting into working with clients, coaching. Like, that was not on my radar. I was strictly focused on my subscription box and just thought it would be fun to show the behind the scenes of making my box. But I still think that the same thing can apply for you if you are actively going into it wanting to have a business where you work with people in a group program or in a one-on-one setting, because it's just about showing who you are, and that can look very different for all of us. I'm not sure what type of business you have or what type of coaching you're offering, but showing behind the scenes is huge. It definitely helps because it gives people a chance to see, first of all, like what you're working on, see if it's something that they're interested in. I love, you know, showing my clients that I've worked with, that's kind of social proof, so people can see what you've done in the past, you know, who you've helped in the past, and always making it known that you have that as well. So like in the description of all my videos, there's a link to book a kickoff call with me, because my videos are very informative. They are real, you know, and so that's the things I hear time and time again when I get on calls with people. Like, I really appreciate you being authentic and sharing your story, and that is why I decided to book this call. And so then having that link down at the bottom of the videos, it helps me because, you know, I just get people signing up for calls just simply because they've been enjoying the content, they've been binging it, and then they want to go and possibly work with me. So I think number one, I would say, is to come up with a consistent content strategy for yourself and show up on a regular basis. I mean, a couple times a week, you know, on whatever your preferred platform is, to start building relationships with your future customers and clients that you want to have. I think it's important to stay true to whatever your mission is. I mean, I think making money is great, signing people up is great, but for me, my number one is always to help someone first and to try to just give them as much value as possible. And then if it's a bonus, if they're like, hey, I think I want to take it a step further and work with you, that's always my approach. Because if I always come from a point of like promote all the time, it can come off very salesy to people, and it'll be like, okay, all she doing all the time is trying to sell her program. So I have very strategic ways that I do this to where it's not like sneaky or anything, and you'll know if you follow my channel before, it's like I definitely give a lot of value. I share as much as I can, but then at the end of the day, a lot of times I really can't answer all the questions. I can't get super in depth with you in a comment on YouTube, and so that is really where I'm like, but if you want to dive deeper into this, if you really want the specifics of how it works for your particular business, then definitely set up a kickoff call with me. Definitely sign up for this program. So I would say, you know, come up with a customized strategy for yourself where you are being able to touch on things that your clients are struggling with, the things that they deal with in their day-to-day, sharing a bit of your life, sharing a bit of behind the scenes and what you're working on, and doing that consistently, and you will start to see the organic relationships, and you will start to make those connections that you want. And from there, that is really where the people will start to sign up to want to work for you, you know, sign up for the discovery calls, join your program. But it's just all about really showing what you do as much as you possibly can. You're definitely going to put a lot more out, especially in the beginning, before you truly start to see the results. And again, this is more of the organic approach. You know, like if you do ads or something like that, it can be a very different experience, but I can't really speak to that. So that has really been what I've done and continue to do, and it works for me time and time again in different launches. And so just, you know, try ways to just, I know it's like so old to say, but you know, like provide value, you know, show up consistently, share your story, and give people a reason to care, you know, about what you're doing. Give people a reason to feel like you see them. And that is really what my whole journey has been, of how I've been able to, as you were saying, yeah, like getting one-on-one clients, when I was doing my group coaching program, even with my membership now, all of these things that I've launched, it's been the same approach every time. I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to share my heart. When I launched my planner, same thing. I'm like, I'm just going to share my heart and just bring them along for this journey of me creating this planner. And it just gives you this support system behind what you're doing. And some people are just going to simply be there to root you on, which you want that as well. And then there's going to be some people like, oh my gosh, I really loved watching her do this, I want to sign up for this, or I want to learn how I can do it too. So I hope that helps. It's definitely, it's a crazy world in these online streets, you know, just trying to grow and be seen. And I know that it can sometimes feel discouraging, but you know, just have to keep going and really just stay true to what your overall why is, your goal is, and the people will come. Okay, so the next question is, for the people starting off with a journal or planner business, do you suggest starting with Handmade and then moving to work with a manufacturer if demand allows? This is definitely a question that I would really need a lot more context, only because I would want to know some of your specific goals you have, kind of like the time you even have, you know, whether or not you want to do something handmade or not. And just, it's hard to answer, but just to give a big picture, I would say that it really comes down to just kind of ask yourself a couple questions of like, okay, first of all, do you really want to make these things by hand? It is a commitment in your time. It is a commitment to invest in the equipment and things. You know, you need a printer, you need a paper cutter, you need the paper itself, whether you're going to be printing it or if you're working with a company that prints the pages for you. You're going to need a binding machine, you're going to need coils or whatever you're going to be binding it with, sticker paper, book board. All of these things are going to be needed if you're going to do, like, for example, like the hardcover process that I've talked about, how I did my planners. So there's a lot of an investment up front, which means you also need a space to house these things as well. So just keep that in mind. I loved doing it by hand, but it got to a point for me where it wasn't as enjoyable as it started to grow. And for that was kind of why I made the switch. But, you know, for you, you may want to start with just getting them made somewhere else first. So just really kind of assess your situation and where you are, because I know a lot of times people will think like, oh, I'll save money if I do it this way, but they both are an investment. They both require you to decide, you know, is this the right fit for me? Is it not? Do I want to kind of do more labor myself, or do I want someone else to do it and I just package them up? So it really depends, but I think it is a great way. I mean, that's the way that I did it, but I don't think that's the only way, and everyone is going to have a different experience. If you do start with getting them created first, some of the benefits to that could just be you don't have to invest in all that equipment up front. That money can be put into you know, putting it into whatever your order would be for the company to make it. There's companies here in the United States, of course, there's companies overseas, and there's all different types of like minimum order quantities you have to have, and just different specs that they offer for the look and feel you're going for your planner or journal. Again, it really just comes down to your needs. There's a lot of little moving parts and things to figure out in order to know which one makes the most sense for you. But like I always say, if you have a desire to do handmade, I say go for it. It's really fun. It definitely gives you a lot of creative flexibility in the things you can do. It kind of removes the middleman, and you really are on more of your own timeline. And so what may take 4 to 6 weeks or 3 to 4 months to come to you, you could do it in, once you have your equipment, you could do it in as little as just a couple of weeks, you know, from designing it, getting everything together and ready to go. So you do save a lot of time in that, but there are some other sacrifices you may have to make. So something to think about. And definitely, again, if you are ever wanting more help with this specific topic, I work with clients all of the time on this exact thing of helping them figure this out and then really helping them through the process. So sign up for kickoff call with me, invest in the Handmade Planner Masterclass, and I think you will definitely start to see very clearly what will be the right route for you to go. And I don't talk about this too much, but I also do have a planner and notebook boot camp as well. And that's for the people that are interested in designing their planner, but they don't want to make it. They want to still work with a manufacturer. And that includes like how to work with a manufacturer, how to design and InDesign, and then just that whole process of doing it that way. So there's kind of a little bit of both. If you're more so handmade, there's a course for that. If you're wanting to get it created by someone else, there's a course for that. So I'll make sure those are linked down below, and I hope that helped you. Okay, so another question is, how can I incorporate a blog into promoting my business? I love this question. Definitely the first thing you'll want to do, and I'll try to link the video up in the cards, is to come up with some content topics. I call them VSPs, so basically your value selling points or your value story points. Just pretty much meaning what is the thing that you are going to use, the subjects that you're going to talk about that will pull in your future customers and clients. And so that applies to social media content, video content, as well as blog content. So whatever those topics are, I recommend about 3 to 5, and this can be different things that fit within your business. So if you know that you are, for let's just use my business, for example, with the Inspired Blueprint, a lot of the big topics is entrepreneurship, but we also talk about self-care over here and wellness. We talk about motherhood sometimes. I talk about goal setting and organization. So I have subtopics that I can pull from, and then when you get into that topic, there's even more that you can talk about. So I suggest coming up with those 3 to 5 topics and then diving into each of those and coming up with as many things as you could possibly talk about under the sun that applies to those topics and that are relevant to your audience, and just come up with different blog posts for days. And then the other side of that too, as far as like your, because that's going to be more, well, let me go back, because that will be more of your valuable content. And then the call to action for that might be something as simple as like join my mailing list or follow over on Instagram or whatever it may be. And then for the promotion, I think that even with that, some of your products may fit with your blog post that you're talking about. So, you know, like if I'm writing a post about, oh, how to plan for your business for next quarter, like maybe let's say that's the blog topic. I could give all of my valuable information about it, you know, give my talking points and everything, and at the end be like, if you're interested in wanting to have a physical planner, check out the business planner here from our shop. And so that's a great way to do that. And that way you are providing them with some solutions, but then it's like, oh, if you want a tool to help you with this, here's my planner. And then the same thing applies if you are just like actively maybe in a launch mode, or if you're really focusing on a product. Sometimes I'll take like a week and a half or 2 weeks where I will specifically like spotlight a product in a way. And so with that, you could make dedicated blog posts just about that product. And what is nice about that too is you figure with all of this stuff, all of these things are evergreen. They can always be found later on. You can always link them in future emails. So like if you have an email newsletter, you can always link to your blogs that you wrote last year or something like that. So it's not like you have to be creating fresh content all of the time. These things can be repurposed in different ways. And so I would just say mainly just your call to action for that blog post will kind of be what you're promoting. So if you're trying to build your email list, then that may be it. If you're trying to sell this particular item, that may be your call to action for your blog post. So really just identifying what your goal is, you know, like what are you trying to do? Or am I trying to grow something right now? Am I trying to get some income right now? Maybe it's a little bit of both. And then start to get those subjects, those topics we talked about, and apply them to those products and things that you're trying to grow in your business. So that is definitely how I would do it. I pretty much feel like that's what I do, but just in like a video form. And so either way, like whatever your hero content, your main content, where you put everything, like if you start with your blog, if that's your main thing, and then from there you can even take pieces of things you said in your blog, you could turn them into short form videos or snippets that you post in graphics on something, or little tidbits that you put in a newsletter. And so it can all flow together, and it can all still be promoting the one common thing that you're trying to promote. So hopefully that was helpful. And I do want to also touch on too as well, one big thing with blogs that's nice is that you can also of course take advantage of SEO. In some aspect, I think all of these different platforms, SEO will definitely play a role. So SEO is important because you can definitely use specific keywords that will help people find you within Google search and different things like that. But another thing I would do if you are going to be getting into blogging is to also look into Pinterest as well, because Pinterest is great for bloggers and really any type of content, honestly. Like even with me, I've been starting to do a lot more with Pinterest and just sharing some of my previous like YouTube content and different things like that. But with your blog, you can use Pinterest to help to promote the blog, which will then help to promote your product too. So that's another thing to consider if you're wanting to bring a blog into the midst. But even if you don't have a blog, Pinterest is definitely another kind of like, I feel like even still, it's not as popular amongst people. And I think it's a great way to grow too. How long does it take from the start of an idea to launching? How long did it take for you? Whew, okay, this is a loaded question only because it's gonna be so different every time. And I have launched so many things. So I think that's the first thing. It's like you will always be launching throughout the life of your business. It's not just like one launch and then that's it. So as far as how long did it take for me, it depends because I've launched so many things, whether it's a physical product or it's a service or a program or just different things. They all have various timelines, but I think instead of more so like how long does it take, I'll speak to what goes into it. So of course you have the idea phase when you're kind of just trying to decide, okay, what exactly do I want this to look like? Really coming up with the concept of your product, figuring out how to get a sample of your product or to test it out. I think a great way to do this, you know, polling your audience, trying to figure out what makes the most sense for them, doing interviews with people that are kind of within the demographics you're thinking about working with, getting their feedback, and then just overall the market research that you do and just kind of seeing what's out there to decide what makes the most sense for you to move forward with, and with, you know, being true to you and what you want to do as well. And then that process can take anywhere from, you know, a couple of days to a couple of weeks, you know, depending on how busy you are, how much you have going on, and, you know, what this is prioritized as. And then from there, it's then really turning that idea into what it's going to be. And so for me, like if it's a course, for example, I like to allow myself some time to really plan my courses out very thoughtfully. So I always will outline everything that I want to talk about. And this even really applies to a lot of my one-on-one programs, services, my membership. It's kind of the same thing. I like to outline what I want to happen before I start the design part. The same thing is true with even like my physical like planner type of products and things like that. I like to outline my ideas first, and I give myself some time. So that could definitely be some weeks to really just organize it. And what that allows me to do is then now I know, okay, I haven't designed it yet, but I know what's going to be going into this product. And from there, that'll help me even start to talk about it early on, even if I don't have it completely ready to go, like to purchase. But it helps to educate myself on what I know is to come for it. And then the other part of it is really, of course, the conception of it, like the design, creating it, whether you're getting something made from somewhere, you're making it yourself. This is it's such a loaded question, so I don't know how to answer it really the best way. But that portion of it can, again, the timeline can vary. If we're talking about like a physical product, if it's something I'm waiting on a company for, once I design it, I'm at the mercy of waiting on them to send it back to me, so that it's ready to go. And that timeline will vary versus if I'm doing something here in house, like let's say I want to make a sticker kit or something like that. As soon as I design it, I can print it out and start having it available to post on my shop. So that could be literally like a week's time. As far as the making and everything goes, since you're saying from idea to launching, and then all while this is going on, I am creating content along the way. I'm documenting what I'm doing and creating so that I can turn it into vlogs or short pieces of content that I can share leading up to my actual launch. For me, launching is not just like, oh, it's for sale. Launching is the whole time leading up to the day that they can purchase it, and even a little bit past that date. So I'm always going to be like having my camera up and propping things up, like while I'm working on things. So then that way I have some content to work with when I'm ready to do like a leading up to launch series or, something like that, or just sneak peeks of things that are coming. And then that launch period can be anywhere from, it depends. My launch periods vary. I usually like to at least give myself a month, especially if it's something that I really want to see some big return on or more. I have done launches as long as 90 days before, where I'm really just like educating the audience, priming them, sharing that I'm working on something. And as we get closer, I start to, of course, unveil a little bit more of what's happening. But if it's something a little bit smaller, where it's not really like anything that is super crazy, or if it's like a digital product or something, because I'm a little bit more established in my business, I might promote it for like a week and then be like, okay, it's available, at the end of the week or the end of a 2-week period. So it's hard to say. I will definitely make sure I have the launch playlist linked below so you can get some tips from that. And I feel like I know I keep repeating it, but if you really are wanting to get some more help on this, even the membership would be great to join, or possibly working with me one-on-one, and I can help you, because there's so many different pieces and parts that go into launching. And depending on what type of business you have, what your customer is like, what your life is like, and what you're even trying to launch, that timeline is going to vary. So that's just a little bit of what it looks like for when I'm launching. But overall, my goal is to try to put as much time in as possible to just really like getting my audience ready for what's coming. So I'm thinking about that just as much as I'm thinking about the actual thing itself. But that's what's always so funny as an entrepreneur, is it's like, sometimes we forget, we'll be so in like the creative hat of creating this thing and working on it, and then we'll look up and be like, oh shoot, I'm supposed to be promoting this and like priming people and getting them ready. So it's you really have to remember, like, okay, I need to also be doing actual like launch strategy as I'm in the background working on this stuff too. Okay, so there might end up being a part 2 to this, because I definitely don't want this to be too long. So we'll just say there will probably be a part 2, and if that is the case, then join me over there.